looking at all this stuff from a positive standpoint, you have the new logistics winners out there, right? Are Amazon and Walmart and Target, Kroger and the people that own Albertsons. They now have seen that too, and so they're going to probably be smarter about getting their hooks in. Some of these players that sat between the farmer or the second producer and the end user supply chain are going to probably get wiped out. You're going to see probably Walmart and Target and Amazon cruise right into those areas and have direct. Trader Joe's had very little problem whatsoever getting whatever they needed because they control a lot of their supply chain right to the producer. The only thing they ran out of was paper products.
And during times of great turmoil, just like these we're living now, the greatest investors of our time, Warren Buffett, T. Boone Pickens, Peter Lynch, and John Templeton, have all made their fortunes in the most volatile of times. As the Chinese put it, Wei Ji, opportunity in the danger. Trade Genius has been on fire lately with winning trades, put options, crypto, as well as industries that are benefiting during these times, more online service, home deliveries. And if you've never traded before and want to learn, you can take advantage of the market when it goes up and down, exactly like these times we're experiencing. Sign up for one of many Trade Genius online educational courses. Discover the lucrative world of trading. Receive personal coaching from Bob Kudla and Philip Cleaver of Trade Genius. And right now, through the beginning of April, you can save 50% off all their bundled specials or use the promo code APRIL for 50% off non-bundled items. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. The link's in the description box below. And on with the interview. Good afternoon, everyone. I had so many questions over the last, say, 3 to 4 weeks with all the turmoil in the markets. How are people able to make money? So it's called going short, and also with the cryptocurrency, these giant fluctuations in everything we see. The biggest point gain ever in one day, the biggest point gain loss the next day. Cryptocurrency is trailing it, leading it. There's, short positions and all these companies that are now pushing into the online services, the home delivery, the other things that are dying on the vine, such as restaurant services. And if you can pick these companies correctly during this time of turmoil, you're going to have a better edge at seeing where everything's leading, especially with the reset in the economy. Bob and I have talked about cryptocurrency many a time, and now this Fed coin comes out and the new IMF coin, and the whole movement into a digital phase of a reset in the economy and the hyperinflative printing that's going on. So many things to talk about today. I have Bob Kudla, Trade Genius, tradelikeagenius.com. You've seen our interviews over the last several months. And again, this is just an information session. Bob can show us, share some information, tips, ideas on what you can also look for in the markets moving forward with all this tumultuous. This is the biggest opportunity in human history that's happening in the markets right now, if you're poised on the right side and if you can see where things might move. Remember, you can bet if the market's going up or down. It just doesn't always have to be up to make money in the green side. It can be going in the opposite direction as well. So, Bob, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. That's absolutely right. I've been telling people that, tremendous chaos, tremendous opportunity. You don't have to accept what's given to you. You can go out and take advantage of these things. And the market right now, a lot of people are saying, what does this look like? Is it going to look like 2008? Is it the Great Depression? What is it? And it's really none of that. Okay, we've never had a situation. This is like World War II starting, but instead of Pearl Harbor getting bombed, New York City got bombed. And it wasn't a one-time event with a couple of planes hitting the World Trade Center. It hit every city at one time. So, that being said, it's also a one-time event. A lot of people extrapolate, things that happen like, okay, now we had this virus, that means everybody's going to die forever. And, with a pandemic, that's even if it's the worst pandemic we've ever had, they die off. The pandemic does. And so, the market's treating this in one sense as a one-time event. So it's basically shifting forward in time. But there's a second component to this, because this really masked what was actually happening in the market anyway. We're at a point where we're reaching debt saturation, at a point where people were rolling off into retirement, at a point where demographics are falling against growth. And so it turned into some sort of accelerant. And that's when we got the quick 35% down movement in the stock market. It retraced half of that. And now we're at this inflection point. But look, I was just talking to somebody earlier today. For every hotel, restaurant chain, massage parlor, airline stock, there are, companies. I don't want to use Zoom because it's now probably a Chinese arm of the telecommunication, but it's going to be digital communications versus face to face. It's going to be, delivery of food versus you going to the market. It's going to be reduced rents. People are going to be able to re-envision the city center core now, because you're ripping out the speculative excess for rents. And now you can have a much more diverse downtown, or you may have no downtown at all, and people are going to start pushing in the exurbs, and there's going to be real estate opportunities there. And, cruise lines, hey, get crushed short term, but now you have maybe the rise of the local staycation, and also you have the rise of what's called local manufacturing versus international supply chain. So to us, it's really an acceleration of things that we've seen coming. Instead of it happening in 21, 22, 23, it happened in the spring of 2020, and we're not looking back. I mean, look at Amazon. It's a 1% from all-time highs. Look at Walmart. These are the big winners in this new environment. You look at Carnival Cruise Line, probably permanently damaged. You look at some of these airlines, probably permanently damaged. And so, you're just going to have to then calmly reflect on where the hockey puck's going to go. And there's going to be just tremendous opportunities. And we're finding them.
Yeah, that's right. Especially on the food side as well. Over the last few days, I've been talking about the government mandates from the USDA to, force farmers to either dump the fruits and vegetables on the side of the road and destroy them, or, dump the milk, because everything's full right now because the institutional buyers, schools, universities, airlines, like you talked about, cruise ships, and these other kind of industries that were taking in large volume of food daily have stopped. So everything's completely full in terms of the manufacturing process, but the supply chains are slowly dwindling. And once these big institutional buyers come rolling back in again, since we've downgraded and downstepped all the supply of everything into just a trickle, when these large institutional buyers want to come back in, it's going to take a fair minute for them to ramp up. And you could definitely see shortages in food and some kind of pull on the meat side, the dairy side, the fruit side, and then the massive frost that just ripped through Europe and destroyed almost everything that was out and butted up early, just like we've seen the last few years. And it's all about the food, because now they're saying that you're going to have to get some sort of digital identity to show that you're immune to something before you'll even be able to enter the stores. So take it phase 2. About the food again. And the big winners out of this are those who control the food, the supply of the food. And ultimately, we're going to get this backstop of food production and delivery for a while, until there's going to be some seesaw up and down of shortage not enough. Oh, and then it's a glut. Shortage not enough. And then it's a glut. So every time we get this new lockdown phase, it's going to come back. There'll be a glut. Institutional buyers will step out of the picture. And then when they want to ramp up again, we'll get a shortage for a couple months. So it's I think it'll be this inverse of when the lockdowns occur versus when the lockdowns end versus when the food is plentiful and the food rises up in price, So if you're able to gauge some of these movements, like I said, Walmart deliveries and all this economy is in such a huge flux into movement of deliveries now, home deliveries, food, Amazon food arm, if you will.
Yeah, which I don't really understand. People aren't eating less.
I know.
It's just being pointed in a different direction. So I'm kind of at a loss as to, it's not like people stopped drinking milk because of the coronavirus, So
that makes no sense to me too.
So I just don't understand. I think it had to be, it had to be deliveries that were paid for that can't be delivered, and they can't reverb it. But, you know, looking at all this stuff from a positive standpoint, you know, you have the new logistics winners out there, right? Are Amazon and Walmart and Target, you know, Kroger and the people that own Albertsons. They now have seen that too, and so they're going to probably be smarter about getting their hooks in. You know, some of these players that sat between the farmer or the second producer and the end user supply chain are going to probably get wiped out. You're going to see probably Walmart and Target and Amazon cruise right into those areas and have direct. You know, Trader Joe's had very little problem whatsoever getting whatever they needed because they control a lot of their supply chain right to the producer. The only thing they ran out of was paper products. You know, and now that's like, now you go into some of these grocery stores, you know, toilet paper, you climb to the ceiling on it, you know, because they just went ahead and produced like crazy. But actually I have a bit more of a positive spin on a lot of this stuff because I think the whole pandemic ruse and myth is over. You know, it was never as bad as they claimed, and this was some sort of, you know, authoritarian world kind of some sort of game that they're playing that they to lock everybody down. And now that it's proven to be not as bad, you're starting to see Denmark, Austria, Spain are already releasing their lockdowns. Texas here in the United States, Florida and Arizona never went to full lockdowns. And now you got the left-leaning states starting to panic a little bit because they see Texas comes off lockdown, you know, then it's a competition, and they're trying to reestablish the initiative here. Look, New York said it was going to be 50,000 beds needed. They're going to have 50,000 ventilators. They're going to have 100,000 deaths in New York City alone. They shipped this boat up there. Nobody's in it. They built a brand new hospital. Nobody's in it. Cuomo's given the ventilators away. He doesn't need them. The beds are half empty. And around the country, I think hospital utilization rate now it was at 50% during the height of this lockdown. Now it's down to a third because they took out everybody out of anything out of elective surgery. So I think you're going to see a really fast snapback from this lockdown, and I think there's going to be, in a good way, I think there's going to be a lack of trust now of what these government scientists say. This is the second round now, right? They blew climate change, and now they blew the pandemic. You know, having said that, let's you and I look ahead, because I think there's something coming down the pipe that should scare the bejesus out of us, and it's the locusts coming out of East Kenya into Iran, into Pakistan, and it's ready to roll into China. And you know, that's going to be a really interesting thing if they can't keep that under control this summer. Because you notice the Russians are smart. You know, they already cut off their exports, you know, of wheat. And Thailand and another country cut off their rice imports already. And so you're going to start seeing, I think, country lockdown of their export crops. I think that is the black tail risk that people don't understand, because you literally can't print food.
Yeah, that's right. And think about the locusts as well. Why are there more locusts? Well, the rainfall patterns have shifted to allow more vegetation to grow in these desert areas, higher carrying capacity. And then you look back through our prehistory and see the Indus Valley, the Harappan civilization, the Fertile Crescent. Guess what? All these areas are becoming green again. And this is the reason that those locusts can transverse across entire desert regions, clear over to India, jump into China. Now, I've been studying China for the last couple of months with a microscope here. So let me give you my 2 cents worth what's happening. First, they're having massive fertilizer shortages there themselves. And because they were locked down so hard and heavy right in the middle of their grow zone, literally like Arkansas was their Hubei and Henan provinces there. So the planting was really far behind. They're finally just starting to get into the fields to till it, but that puts them a month and a half behind. All the areas in the south, in Guangdong area and that area with rice and this kind of production of fruits and vegetables, they didn't have the labor to harvest it. A lot of the oranges and other things just went rotten on the trees, fell down. The rice didn't get planted on time. The fields didn't get irrigated in time to get the planting done. The spring armyworm is back there, and that turns into this moth that then flies and devours a bunch of vegetation. The locusts have made it through Myanmar and are in Western China right now. If you follow, after they came from India, they went up through Bangladesh and down into Myanmar, and then hopped over, and they're over in the Yunnan area, Sichuan. And this is where they're trying to battle the locust right now inside China. But then the fall armyworm's there. Heilongjiang is another huge wheat producing area. They just locked it down a few days back, and that's on the border with North Korea. That's one of the main wheat growing areas. Now understand, they won't come on and be able to plant until, May anyway in the regular planting schedule. They won't even be hitting the fields for another 2-3 weeks. But since they're being put into lockdown, that's going to delay the supply chains going through. And China's having huge shortages in fertilizer. So if they're a main supplier to the United States for fertilizer, then where's our fertilizer coming from? Because you see Long Beach and a fair few of those videos coming out, very little cargo throughput coming through. These people coming out on live leak with all their videos showing almost no container volume coming through. I understand fertilizers break bark, you're getting a different kind of ships bringing that in, but no shipping is still no shipping. So, you got to add all these variables in. And if China's going to have a real low planting season, they're going to need an enormous amount of food. We just saw Smithfield, the meat producer, go on lockdown because a fair few people were, infected inside the meat processing plant there. So now what for us? We got the rains again. You got to look at these massive rains all over the southeast U.S. and going up the Mississippi Valley once again. And it's just like 2.0 from last year, but it seems to be exacerbated by the no plant happening in Europe, the no plant happening across China, and our delayed plant happening now. So what do you think that turns into?
And nine states have declared delayed planting for the winter wheat crop. Yeah, so our fertilizer, a lot of it comes from Canada, and there's a stock out there called MOS, Mosaic, so it put a bottom in about 2 weeks ago. It lost half its value, and right now it's starting to have a very constructive view. So that's a stock people need to keep an eye on if they're looking to make money. In fact, it's already doubled from it's basically the Corona crash low, and it's only half of where it was 3 months ago. So keep an eye on Mosaic. I think Mosaic can go from $12 to $18 here pretty quickly. And so that's where the opportunity is, because people don't realize when crops go in late, it doesn't mean the crop can't get out of the ground. It means that they're going to shove potash into it as hard as they can to accelerate the growth spurt, to get it to flower and seed zone. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that companies like Mosaic and its like to start moving higher. I think there's a Chinese company out there called IPI, but I don't buy Chinese companies. Like Intrepid Potash. Intrepid Potash is already up 20% from just 2 weeks ago as well. So you have something there, Dave, and that's an area where people can profit from it. And then and I think we started getting a lift a little bit on wheat. Let me take a look at that chart real fast.
Because I can say the spring wheat forecast for planting is down from even last year. And even 2 years ago, it's down some 400,000 acres from a few years back. So the forecast came out just yesterday off the USDA for projected planting. It's down again from last year. Why is it down again?
Yeah, I mean, they can't get it into the ground. And number two, some of the farmers are going to go bust. And, and I'm looking at the corn ETF, and there's probably a 10% movement in it right here, going into the June cycle high. So there's opportunities for people to hedge their food costs with some stocks here. So FYI on that. And there's a short-term gain here. You and I talk all the time. I didn't have to panic through this shutdown period because, I always keep a rolling 6 to 8 weeks worth of food in the house. And I just went ahead and just worked my feed stock down. In fact, I just went to Costco for the first time last week since it started. And I walked in there just like I walked in when I was in there in January. And I'm like, oh, this place is full, because they basically were able to re-energize it. But, another thing too, I know we like to swing topics to topics. Remember I said I think Southern California, Arizona is going to do just fine. We just went through 7 out of 8 days of rain. We're above our number. We have some great snowpack in the southern Sierras and the southern California mountains. Arizona's looking decent, and I still think that this area is just like, the Sahel is greening in Africa. I think this is our belt. I think northern Mexico, southern United States, is southern and western United States is going to probably get more rain than what people think. I'm in the right place. I don't know how much food I can grow in the subdivision, but we're giving it a good shot this year.
And I've been talking with Bob Kudla from Trade Genius. If you have any questions, you can contact him. The link's in the description box below.